If you find yourself tripping when you walk, then this video is perfect for you because we're going to fix it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Will Harlow and I'm the Over-Fifties specialist physio here at HT Physio in Farnham. And today we're going to be talking about how to fix tripping when you walk, and I'm going to give you 4 of my best tips to do so. So tripping is a really common problem for people who like to walk. Unfortunately, it can lead to a higher risk of falls. So some of the people I see here after a fall found that they tripped over their toe or they hit their foot on the floor and they went down and they caused an injury as a result. So tripping is dangerous and we need to stop it. So I'm going to show you 4 things to do. 2 of them are exercises and 2 of them are great tips that you can use when you're walking to stop that from happening, and I hope it will be useful for you. Now, before I show you the exercises, I just wanted to state these are not going to be suitable for everyone, so make sure you get checked out by your doctor before you try them. Don't do them if they cause you pain, and don't do them as a replacement for medical advice. Anyway, let's have a look at the exercises and the tips now. So the first great exercise to help you stop tripping when you walk is the Tib Raise. And the Tib Raise is an exercise that works this muscle at the front of the shin. And the reason this is such an important muscle to work is because when we walk, we need this muscle to pull our toes up towards us. It's called the tibialis anterior and it lives at the front of the shin. Now, if this muscle is weak, we aren't going to be able to pull our toes up from the floor, so our toes are going to be more likely to catch when we walk, and then that's how tripping occurs. So to do this exercise is very simple. You just need a wall to lean against. You probably want to do this in shoes. I'm doing it in socks just to show you, but when you've got shoes on, you won't slip on the carpet. Now, you want to position yourself so your bottom and your shoulders are in contact with the wall. You want a very slight bend in your knees, and you want your heels to be probably about 1 foot to 18 inches away from the wall. So there's a bit of a gap there. Now the exercise is really simple. All we're going to do is pull the toes up towards us like this. So we're raising the toes, and you should feel that the muscles at the front of your shin are the ones that are doing the work. Now, if you're someone who trips quite a lot, what I'd recommend you do, rather than doing lots of repetitions of this, is I'd recommend you pull up and hold. And this is an isometric contraction, which is going to work on the endurance of your tibialis anterior muscle. So you can still do repetitions, but I just recommend doing a 5-second, maybe even a 10-second hold of each rep. And it doesn't take long before you start to feel the muscles at the front of your shins here get quite tired. They'll feel like they're achy or fatigued. That's a good thing. That means that you're working them to the point where they're going to get better. So I'd recommend doing that to the point of fatigue, so to the point where this feels quite tired, and doing it 3 times a day if you're someone who trips often. Now the next exercise I've got for you will tackle another component of tripping. So when we walk, just to show you how it works, the first thing that happens is our hip flexes to bring our leg through. And it has to flex to allow the knee to come up. If it doesn't flex very well, what happens is we can't bring our leg through, which means it's going to get caught on the ground behind us. So we need strong hip flexors in order to walk far. So to improve the rate at which we can contract our hip flexors, we're going to work on this kind of movement here. So if you're someone who's not necessarily that confident on your feet, what I'd recommend you do is find something to hold on to, stand up nice and tall. You can use a wall to lean against if you wish. Put the other hand on the hip like this and put all of your weight on the non-working side. Stand tall, so we're not using our abs to do this, and then we're just going to lift your leg up like this towards you, and then slowly back down. So we're working on this hip flexion movement. And what most people find is this part of the movement here is super easy, but when they get up to here, it's actually quite difficult to maintain that contraction. And you can really feel the hip working to do that. And if that was super easy for you, you can introduce a resistance band. So the way this would work is you just loop the band around the front or the middle of both feet like this, and nothing else changes. So you're going to have yourself leaning against the wall, all the weight goes through this leg, keep yourself tall, and then you're going to lift up, pulling the band up towards you, and then back down like this. So we're calling this hip flexion with a band. Again, we want a little squeeze at the top, and we're just going to work it to the point of fatigue in this muscle here. And then once we've done that, we can swap over. You can keep yourself leaning against the same side, come up like this. You might want to give yourself a bit more room when you do this. Come up like that, keeping your back straight, back down, up again, and down. The other benefit of doing this exercise is you can see that my ankle is also having to flex as well. So it's like a double exercise for people who trip. So I'd recommend doing that to the point where you start to get some fatigue there. Again, 3 times a day would be brilliant, and it won't take long before that's stopping you from tripping anymore. Now I've given you the 2 exercises, I've got 2 tips to help you stop tripping anymore. But before I show you what the tips are, I just want to let you know that 88% of people who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to the channel. So if that's you, scroll down, hit the subscribe button. It's totally free, but then you'll be the first to hear about our videos when they come out. So the tip I've got for you, the first tip, is to fix your gaze 15 feet ahead of you. Now 15 feet seems to be the magic number for where to have your gaze. This is going to be slightly different for everyone, but for most people 15 feet is good. And the reason I'm saying 15 feet is because most people who trip bring their gaze right down to the floor, and quite rightly as well, because they're worried about catching their foot on the floor. But if you've practiced the first 2 exercises, you should have fixed some of the mechanical problems. Now we need to fix the confidence problem. So when you're looking down at the floor, the problem with this is your center of gravity is now in front of you, which means you're actually more likely to fall forward if you do trip. So it's a cruel irony. It means it's actually made it more dangerous for you to walk. So if we lift your gaze up 15 feet ahead, what we get here is we can still scan the ground, so we can still see if there's craggy bits of pavement, but we've fixed our posture and we've brought our center of gravity just inside the body. That means that if we do trip, we're less likely to fall flat on our face. And the brain is clever enough to map out the terrain in front so that even when you reach an obstacle, you'll have it in your brain and you'll be able to step over it quite safely. Now you might want to modify that 15 feet amount based on your height, but for someone of about my height, 15 feet is good. If you're down here, you probably want to fix it maybe 12 feet ahead instead. So try and modify it based on your height, but that's a great tip to help to stop you from tripping. And then the final tip I've got for you today is to complete the heel toe bend trifecta. And basically I've spoken on many videos about how heel to toe is a good way to walk. And that means that the first thing that strikes the ground is the heel, and the second thing we do is we push off through the toes. And that's great, but I've seen a lot of people in the clinic recently who have got a nice heel to toe, but they're missing the next step, which is to bend the knee. And if they miss the knee bend, what that gives us is a shuffling appearance and a scuffing of the ground. Because every time they fail to bend the knee, the foot is still in contact with the ground as we come through, so it makes tripping much more likely. So this is how it should look. We should strike the foot with our heel. We should come through like this. Watch the right foot. I push off through the toes, and then the next thing that should happen is I bend the knee as I bring the leg through. I'm going to show you again, but using the left leg so you can see. So we should strike the foot with the heel, come through like this, push off through the toe, and then you can see my knee should bend to allow my leg to clear the ground before the next heel strike. So what I recommend my clients do is they say in their head, heel, toe, bend. Heel, toe, bend, and track one of your 2 legs. So if you find you always trip on the right, you should match those sayings to the right foot. So you would go like this, you would go heel, toe, bend, heel, toe, bend as you walk. And it doesn't take many repetitions of that before it becomes pretty automatic. I reckon just a week of practicing that will actually lead to permanent solutions for you if you're someone who trips a lot, provided you stick with it and you keep bringing yourself back to it if you find yourself slipping back to old habits. So those are the 4 tips. This is probably the most important one. Strike with the heel, push through the toes, then bend the knee to bring the leg through. All of those things combined are going to stop about 70 or 80% of people from tripping when they walk. So those are my 4 incredible tips for how to stop tripping when you walk. I hope this video has been useful. If you found it helpful, do drop a comment below because I love to read your thoughts. And if you want to get more from me, you can pick up a copy of my book. It's called Thriving Beyond 50 and you can find it on Amazon using the link below. It's got loads more tips and advice on how to stay fit, healthy and mobile in your 50s and beyond. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time in watching these videos, and I'll see you on the next one.